So I walked into my daughter's room and I asked her, would you stand under my umbrella with me? Well, she laughed, but it broke the ice and it set the stage for a reconciling conversation. I had arrived in New York City just a few days earlier to help my daughter Hope move from the Upper East Side of Manhattan to Harlem. This was going to be her second year at the acting conservatory of her dreams, and she was moving into her first apartment with her new friend Minna. It was August, it was hot and humid, but we made our way around the city getting everything she needed for her new adventure. So IKEA was the first big stop. And let me say this, ladies, okay? Getting to IKEA in Frisco is nothing like getting to IKEA in Brooklyn, New York, okay? We basically took a train, a plane, and an automobile to get there. Yeah, so we got there, we got one of those massive Texas-sized carts that you all know about, I'm sure. And we loaded it up with everything she needed, and then we thought to ourselves, are we gonna fit this in an Uber? Because, you know, we don't drive in New York. And so we ordered the largest suburban XL, car that was available. We shoved everything into the back of that, and we headed back to Harlem to find a parking space. I don't know if you've been to New York, but it's not easy to find a parking space in New York, and then haul everything up like 3 flights of unair-conditioned steps. So we were exhausted, to say the least. We spent, the rest of the time just unpacking and, getting ready for the week ahead. Come Tuesday morning, I received a text that my flight was canceled. And so let me just say this, that my daughter is a drama girl. She's an actress, and sometimes things get blown out of proportion. And I've learned to navigate through all that. And so, she was just upset about my flight being canceled and all of that. And so, honestly, there was nothing that I could do about it. So we decided to part. That was best. I don't know if you have girls, but that's best sometimes. So she went to work. I went to Central Park just for some quiet in the middle of the city, quiet and prayer and really, talking to Jesus about what was going on. So that evening, she arrived home and she went straight to her room. And I found this really odd behavior for Hope because I believe that one day Hope is going to be a catalyst for others to work out those conflicts in their life. She almost always goes first when there's conflict. And I love that about her. But in this situation, it was my turn to go first. And that is what I did. And so that is when I grabbed the umbrella and I walked into her room and I moved towards her to understand, what is going on in your heart, because there is absolutely no way that I am leaving New York City with a rift between us. And ladies, I want to say this, that going first is not always easy, but it is necessary if we are going to model the love of God, humility, and what emotionally healthy relationships look like. We are the adults in the room, especially with our children, and when we lean on the Holy Spirit, He is going to show up for us every single time. Not just once, but every single time. So by this time, our emotions had come down a bit, and we were in a better place to have a better conversation. And there's a saying that I like to live by, and it goes like this. When we seek to understand, we must first stand under. So we switch the word around, thus the example for the umbrella. When we humbly ask someone to come and stand underneath our umbrella, we are inviting them into a safe place of grace and safety. And it's really in this shared space that we get to begin the work of connection. The words we choose become the fertilizer, the garden in which we have the opportunity to create Just like God did in Genesis, we get to decide and choose how we would like to be and what we would like to build in this situation. And in Proverbs 24:3, Passion Translation, it says this: wise people are builders. They build families, they build businesses, and they build communities. And this is who we are, ladies. We are builders and we are creators in Jesus. And so, so a little thing that I want to teach you, and I learned from one of my mentors, Judith Glaser, and it's called double clicking, okay? And when we're in conversation, we want to double click on words and phrases. And just like when we're on the computer, okay, we double click to open up the files, right? We want to see what is inside. Well, we want to do this in conversation. And so for me, I had decided that in this conversation with my daughter, that I was going to be a great listener. I decided this before I went into the conversation. I am going to be a great listener, and I am going to double click on words and phrases so that I really understand what is going on inside of her heart. And so Hope and I, we discussed at great length what was going on in her heart, what she was feeling, her challenges that were, facing her in the weeks and really for the coming year, and really, what caused her to get so upset. And so for me, staying an extra night with my girl was awesome and inconvenient, but I'll take any extra time that I can get with her. But to my daughter, it was really an interruption in her very well-laid plans of a night with some good friends. So at the end of the chat, I understood her better. We both felt heard, and we formed a deeper bond in our already strong relationship. And so you might be asking yourself, okay, that's great, Patti. I'm glad that you connected with your daughter. But how does that apply to me? Okay, so I'd be honored to talk to you today about the characteristics of trust and distrust and how we can revive those important conversations in our lives. And at the end, I'm going to teach you some action steps and promise you that you will be able to apply those things to your conversations and your relationships immediately.